Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Delane and this is my sister-in-law Amanda.
Hello.
I'm so excited that she's here. The cool thing about being sister-in-laws is that we're actually also friends.
Yes.
So it makes it really awesome. We don't
hate each other.
Yeah,
so
we
that's
actually
good.
really like each other.
Yeah.
We've been hanging out for like an hour when we were supposed to be filming.
Yeah.
But we had to talk and catch up.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
You have to do that.
Yeah, all the time.
Yes.
So this is going to be Amanda's birth story. Amanda has two boys who are amazing and adorable. And I can always put a picture in right here somewhere.
Yeah, I vouch for that. I mean, I'm a little biased, but I think they're pretty cute.
I was going to say I'm not, but I guess I am.
Yeah,
I mean, family.
kind of biased.
I'm a little biased.
It's okay.
So we are going to start. She's going to start at the beginning and go through her journey to motherhood.
And
And it's going to be awesome and fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let her take over in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Amanda, like she said, and I got married in 2012 to my husband, Steven. In 2015, I got pregnant. I was in college at the time, and we were very excited. We weren't really trying, but we had been talking about having kids, and when we got pregnant, we were shocked, but we were very excited, to start that journey. So it was about a week later, I woke up that morning. School had actually been delayed a little bit because it had gotten ice. I had gotten up to get ready to go to class and noticed I was feeling a little bit off. I couldn't really put my finger on what was going on. I figured it was just pregnancy related. Had no idea. So I got ready, got to school. I was driving on my way to class, and I was almost at my school. I started getting really intense cramps, like menstrual cramps, which I thought was odd. But this was my first pregnancy. I didn't really know what to expect. I thought maybe this is a normal thing. But I was a little bit like I don't know if that much pain is normal. Pulled into the parking spot and I got out. And when I got out, I just had this feeling of I needed to go to the bathroom. I just needed to, I don't know why I felt that way, but so I got into the school, immediately went to the bathroom. And when I sat down, I wiped and noticed that it was bright red. And at that point, my stomach just kind of dropped. And I kind of just put two and two together that something was wrong. And so I just left school, got back in my car, and called my husband, and was just kind of hysterical in the parking lot. This was something I never thought, I never heard of miscarriage or what it was. I didn't know of anybody that had ever had miscarriages, so I really didn't know what was going on. I thought maybe everything's still okay. I was just a ball of nerves. And I called him. He told me to call my doctor. So I called my doctor, and I hadn't actually seen my doctor yet because I was only about probably 5 weeks at this point, and they don't see you until 8 weeks. So when I called my doctor, they wouldn't actually see me because I had never been seen by this doctor before. And they were like, you haven't come in yet at all. They were like, the best thing you could do is go to the emergency room. And I said, well, bleeding, is this normal? They wouldn't tell me anything. They're like, we cannot say anything to you, which I thought was kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So I went home and I told him what the doctor had said, and at that point, my husband was still really calm about it. He was like, it's probably fine. But in my gut, I was like, this isn't normal. This isn't fine. I was still having a lot of pain. And when I got home, I went to the bathroom and I was still having more blood come out. So at that point, I was crying. We need to go to the emergency room. I need answers. I need to know what's going on. And so we did. We went to the emergency room, and that took forever. When I got back, it was a lot of waiting inside the room, and they checked me. They did an ultrasound, but as early as I was, they really weren't able to see anything. So they did give me a pregnancy test, which did come back positive still at that point. So I was still pregnant at that point, but they couldn't see anything because I was only 5 weeks. Some time went by in the emergency room. Finally, the doctor came in, basically was like, it's probably a miscarriage. You're just gonna have to wait it out. And that's basically all we can tell you. That he did tell me he made an appointment with my doctor for the next morning because they had found something on my ultrasound that they couldn't tell me in the emergency room. So I was gonna have to go in the morning to go see my doctor and find out what was going on. The bleeding and stuff he said was probably a miscarriage. So now I'm dealing with a miscarriage and also something that they won't tell me that they saw on my ultrasound. So I was just like a mess. And the next, I didn't get a whole lot of sleep that night because I was up all night bleeding. If you've ever had a miscarriage or you're just wondering, it's painful. Even at only 5 weeks, it's painful. And there's a lot of stuff that happens and that comes out. And I just did that. I didn't wake my husband up. I just did it on my own. I don't know why I didn't wake him up. I just felt like I was grieving and I didn't think about it. Honestly, I just did my thing and dealt with it. So that happened all night. I didn't get much sleep at all. And then the next morning we woke up, we went to the doctor, and you know, I was not doing well mentally. I mean, I was still bleeding. You know, the bleeding lasts for a long time. It's not just this like one little quick thing. It's continual. It wasn't as heavy as it was during the night, but it was still there. It was still happening. I was still in a lot of pain. The doctor, you know, saw me. He did an ultrasound on me as well. He, you know, did say, you know, you're having a miscarriage. I believe that's what's happening. And we can't see anything, you know, in your uterus. But it's only 5 weeks. So, you know, we wouldn't expect to see anything anyways, but with all the bleeding and the pain you're having, that would be what we would say is happening. And then he went on to tell me that from the ultrasound they did at the ER, they noticed a very large cyst on my right ovary. So basically he told me, you know, the cyst was about the size of, at that point, I think like an orange. So it was pretty large. And I asked, like, would that be what caused my miscarriage? He said, probably not. It probably is unrelated, but it could have, we don't know. But he said, we're gonna have to watch this. And I believe he put me on birth control to shrink the cyst, which was not the news I wanted to hear. I did want us to be able to keep trying to have another baby, but because of the cyst, I was not gonna be able to. I was gonna have to get put on birth control to try to shrink the cyst. So I believe I was on birth control. So this happened in March. I was on birth control for a month or two. And whenever I went back for another ultrasound, the cyst had not shrunk and it actually had gotten bigger. I don't really remember the size that it had gotten up to, but it was pretty large. To the point where it was like, okay, well, this isn't working, so we need to schedule a surgery. Like, that's kind of if it doesn't go away on its own, if it doesn't go with medicine, we're gonna have to do surgery. And so we talked about different kinds of surgery, whether it could be like laparoscopic surgery, where they just kind of like make a very small incision and are able to go in with a tool and remove it that way. But because of the size of the cyst, they were not gonna be able to do it that way. I don't really remember the term that they used for it, but they basically had to like cut me open as they would if I were getting like a C-section or something like that. So that's what they did. I had that surgery at the beginning of June, where they removed the cyst, and they had told me that there was a possibility that, you know, during the surgery, if they couldn't get the cyst or something happened, that I might lose the ovary. So that was a fear, but I was trying not to worry about that. The doctor was very, he tried to tell me like, chances of that happening were slim. He said it just depended on when they went in there, how things went, how big the cyst really was, and where it was at and all that stuff. So they were, luckily they were able to get the cyst without taking my ovary. So I was very happy about that. After all that happened, after recovery, we ended up starting to try to get pregnant again. I would say like in August or so. And I say try, we kind of like loosely tried to get pregnant, and we did end up getting pregnant in January with my son Jonah. This would have been in 2016. So I got pregnant with him. It took about 6 months, and I was working full time at a salon at that point. My pregnancy with him was pretty easy and pretty, you know, I was nervous for sure. Like that first trimester, I was very nervous that it was gonna happen again, and every little ache and twinge that I felt, I was immediately going to the bathroom to check to see if I was having a miscarriage. But luckily everything went smoothly with that. We did have, at our 20-week ultrasound with him, they saw something with his umbilical cord that was off. basically you're supposed to have, I think, like 2 vessels and something else, like an artery or something, and he only had 1 vessel in the artery. At least that's what they saw. And so because of that, we had to go back for more frequent ultrasounds because they were worried about his growth in the uterus, like that he might not get what he needs because the umbilical cord is not looking like it's right. Kind of towards the end, we found out that it was there was a second vessel. It was just a lot smaller than the other one, and that's why they couldn't see it before. And he ended up being fine. With him, I was able to work full time. The whole time, pretty much. I stopped working around 36, 37 weeks. And I remember the day that we ended up actually having him. I was 38 weeks and 2 days. And then I woke up that morning and I was having a lot of lower back pain. I have been dealing with like sciatic nerve pain a lot, which is very painful. And I just kind of chalked it up to it was the way he was positioned. I didn't know, but I just remember that from that morning I was in a lot of pain. But I had a normal 38-week appointment scheduled with my doctor. When my husband got home from work, we went to that appointment, and just that day, actually, I had packed my bag and put it in the car, just to have it in there. We went to that appointment, everything went normal. The whole appointment, we just talked about normal things. Everything was going normal. We were like kind of wrapping up, and I don't remember if she made the comment to me or if I brought it up that I hadn't been feeling a lot of movement. She might have asked me like, oh, you're feeling the baby move or a lot, right? And I was like, not a whole lot. I didn't really know what a lot was, but I wasn't feeling him move much, maybe a few times a day, which she said was, that's not really super normal. So I'm gonna do an ultrasound real quick and just check him out, make sure he's okay. So she did that, and she kind of, while she's doing it, she's kind of looking at the screen. I couldn't see the screen. And she was looking at it for a little bit, and that, if you've ever been in that position, you're like, oh, your heart starts racing a little bit because you're like, what's happening? What's going on? So she turned the screen around so I could see, and she was like, well, he looks good in there. Like his heart rate is great. But she said your fluid level is getting pretty low. Not at the point where we need to panic, but it's getting kind of worrisome. So she said, I'm gonna go ahead and send you over to labor and delivery. And I was just like, wait, what? Like we're doing this like now? And I was just kind of shocked. I should have already like had that in my brain, but I just was not thinking that I was going to be having him that day. So she was I loved her. She was so calm about it. She was very just chill about it. She didn't like freak us out about it, like nothing that we needed to rush about. She said, just make your way over there. What she wanted to do was do what's called a contraction stress test on me because my fluid levels were really low, which is basically they hooked me up to Pitocin, and Pitocin is like what they give you to induce labor. So she wanted to go ahead and hook me up to that for about an hour and see how the baby would handle the contractions. And if he handled them fine, she said, then they would let me stay the night in the hospital and start the Pitocin like early in the morning to get things going. So that's what we did. When we got over there, they strapped me up to this thing and the Pitocin and everything, and we're monitoring his heart. And every time I started to have a contraction, like towards the end of the contraction, his heart rate would just drop. The first few times, I don't really remember how low it was the first couple of times it happened, but they were kind of like, that's not a good sign. And then like, I think the 4th time it happened, it dropped quite a bit. It was like in the 120s, 130s, and it dropped down to like the 50s and then the 40s. And so that's when like the doctor wasn't in the room with me, and she like ran into the room, and because she could see, I guess, on her thing, like what was going on. So she ran in and was like, okay, yep. And it came back up after the contraction went away. So she said, we're gonna take you off the Pitocin to stop the contractions. She said, and we need to do a C-section because he's just not handling the contractions. And she didn't want me to obviously go into labor on my own and have contractions because that could, affect his heart and stuff. So I was surprised, but I was like, okay, sure, yeah, whatever we need to do to get him here safely. And luckily my parents had just gotten there. At the time we were living in Austin, which was a little bit farther away than they lived. So they came up and they had just gotten there and we told them everything that was going on, and it was very calm, which was nice. We didn't have to like rush into the emergency room to have the C-section. It was just like I was able to walk back into the room and sit on the table, and Steven, my husband, had to stay in a little room while they gave me a spinal, which is what they give you to like numb you from your waist down, or I guess for a C-section it would be like from your midsection down, so you don't feel anything that's going on. And that was really not bad. I was nervous about being in there without Steven, but the nurse was great and it was not really that painful at all. It felt like a little bee sting, like it wasn't bad. So then they lay you back, you have your arms out, and my husband came in at that point and was able to kind of sit by my head, and we were able to talk while they were working on getting him out. I didn't feel anything other than a lot of tugging, like my body was moving around a lot because they were pulling a lot to get him out. I do remember towards the end they had made a comment about meconium, and I knew that I'd heard that before. I wasn't like for sure what that was, but basically he had it's when a baby like poops in the uterus. It's called meconium, and that can happen when a baby is in distress in the uterus, which I think had happened from the contraction stress test and everything going on. And so because of that, they had to check his lungs because he probably swallowed some, so they needed to get all that out. So it wasn't like anything super scary. They were just like, we're gonna sit him over here and try to get all this out of his lungs, and then they'll take him back and keep him for a couple hours to monitor his lungs and his breathing to make sure that it's all out of his airways. And so it was very chill. No one was freaking out. It was very calm, which was nice. They take him over to the table and kind of wipe him down, and we're making sure to get a lot of that stuff out. They brought him over to me. I think we have a picture of that. They brought him like up to my face, and I was able to see him real quick before they had to take him away. And my husband was able to go with him. And then you're just laying there like, waiting for them to close you up, which feels like it takes forever. You're just like ready to be done and out of there, and especially, you know, see your baby and be with your baby. So they rolled me back into a recovery room. I was in there for a couple hours before I got to actually really hold my baby for the first time. So that was hard, but I did have a lot of family and friends coming in, like taking turns coming in to see me and telling me how, you know, he was doing good. They were able to watch him like get a bath and stuff, and so that was making me feel good. I was just ready to hold him and see him myself. And so it was about a couple hours later that Steven, my husband, was able to bring him in. That whole experience was really not bad. Like, it's not like what you picture or imagine it to be, but it really wasn't bad. After that, we had a normal hospital stay. We stayed for a couple hours, and then a couple days, and then we're able to go home. We had some challenges at home. He was a colicky baby, but other than that, with the birth, everything was pretty good. You know, not ideal, not what you expect, but it was good. I kept saying, they're taking care of him, because I couldn't see anything, I couldn't hear anything. He wasn't crying. I didn't know what was going on.